Well, thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could we all please rise for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to let everyone know that we did have an executive session prior to this meeting in which we discussed personnel, contractual, and legal matters. I was supposed to say that before the Pledge of Allegiance, I guess. But anyway, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anyone in the public, either in person or online, that would like to discuss any items that are on the agenda? Agenda items only, please. So I don't see any, so we'll move on to number 5. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes from the following meetings? A, September 10th regular board meeting. B, September 20th special board meeting. C, October 1 policy committee meeting. And D, October 1 caucus meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. At this time, we would like to entertain a presentation from our student representatives, Madeline Wilson and Olivia McBreen.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. It's great to see all of you tonight, and we have some updates for you about late September and early October here in the high school. So let's get right into it. This month, Junior Achievement came to the high school and put on our STEM Day. And basically, the purpose of STEM Day is to introduce our 9th and our 10th graders to different potential occupations they could have in the STEM fields. So they learned about 7 different trades, and they did activities pertaining to those trades. And I didn't participate because I'm in 11th grade, but I heard that everyone enjoyed it.
Okay, so today was the second Principal's Advisory Committee meeting of the school year, which is essentially a group of students that meets with Mr. Funk monthly and addresses concerns within the school and just things that the students are observing and they want to bring to Mr. Funk. So our first agenda item was addressing new freshmen we could add to the group. We talked about how we've seen a lot of improvement in the school lunches this year, and everyone's really excited about that. We talked about a grant that we received for $3,000 to add feminine hygiene products to our bathrooms. And we also talked about ways to brighten our school. We talked about having our art club, have some new initiatives to do some murals and stuff like that.
I'm pleased to announce that field hockey won the Tri-Valley League Championship last Thursday. Thank you. And I'm also excited to announce that our senior night was tonight. It happened around 6:45, and it was just great to see everybody come together and sort of send off our seniors.
We're all very proud of field hockey. Also, boys and girls soccer have a few games left in the regular season. And I don't know about boys soccer, but at least for girls soccer, we are planning to go into postseason games. Additionally, football, their senior night is October 18th, and the theme for that game is Pink Out.
We spoke about activity days here in the high school last board meeting, and I'm pleased to say that they have been going very well. I've heard great compliments from the student body, and I know personally I participated in the Guess the Lyric activity last activity day. Not to brag, my group did win. But yeah, I think they've been overall enjoyable and have helped to boost the mental health of the school. We also had our club fair at a pep rally to introduce the homecoming court nominees. And at this club fair, we sort of different clubs set up stands, and it gives new students and old students the opportunity to sign up for clubs and sort of see how they can contribute to Susquenita High School's community.
Soon, here in October, students will be able to register for dual enrollment, where essentially they can get college credits from specific high school classes through Lackawanna and Harrisburg colleges, and those credits can transfer to colleges and get some classes out of the way for them. So that's exciting.
Earlier this month, the freshman class went on their annual field trip to the Renaissance Fair. I actually was fortunate enough to attend this field trip as a TA for Miss Petro, and I can say it was a great experience. Everybody enjoyed it. I heard most compliments about the giant pickles on a stick.
The last thing we have for you tonight is something I'm very excited about, which is our Blackhawk Brew. They recently had their first day of the year, and then our next one is tomorrow. And last time it was super successful. They have a bunch of new drinks, they introduced lemonade, and it's very popular with all the students, and I think they sold out of all of their treats last time, which I highly recommend. And I think that's all we have for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Great job. Guess that takes us to number 6, finance. Treasurer's reports were listed. Treasurer's report, the all fund summary report, the cafeteria cash report. May I please have a motion to approve the following payment of orders? 1, the general fund prepaid FNB for $1,406,229.76. And also in this motion will be the approval of a general fund prepaid MP for $18,982.16.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Number 8, personnel. If I can have a motion to approve the following personnel items, and I think we'll just do items A through F.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Any comments? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, policies. Can I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy 226, student searches?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy 137.1, the district program participation and home education program?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Any opposed? All right. Motion approved. Item number 10, contracts. May I have a motion to approve the temporary contract with the Pennsylvania Principals Association for an interim middle school assistant principal?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11. May I have a motion to approve us adding an Act 80 day to this school year's calendar for February 13th, 2025 in the PM for parent and family teacher conferences?
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? Any opposed? All right, moving on to number 12, Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center update, and that will be from me, and this will probably be a little lengthier than normal. So first of all, before I start talking about what I need to talk about, which are finances, I just want to go on the record of just having the highest praise I can give to our tech school. Students who at Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical School are getting spot-on quality education. I was touring with the former director, who I've known for probably over 20 years, several months ago. It was actually last spring, and he was telling me one of their students over there was doing an internship. An internship was making $28 an hour, which again is an outlier, but still, I mean, the opportunities are amazing. And, you know, we've had a lot of kids that can't get in because there's just not a lot of room. And of course, that's one of the reasons why we're expanding. So I just think it's great. However, we got to talk some financial stuff here with the tech school. As you know, there was a fuel leak last year at the tech school in which there was a broken pipe that leaked fuel into the ground, which ended up costing us, because we are part of the tech school, and it was like $1,700,000. I don't know if I don't have the right number down here somewhere. But anyway, it's close to 2 million. It was under $2 million. But basically, it depleted any capital reserve money that the tech school had. And it also took from Peaser's reserve money that we had in order to pay all of those bills. So that has been paid. The wells are being tested, and they continue to test pretty clean. And I think we're going to have a clean bill of health there. They did some investigating. There was no way of telling what perhaps happened that caused this leak to happen. Maybe some coating on some pipe was etched 20 years ago or something, and it just eventually wore through. So can't really blame anyone. You know, no harm, no foul. It's being taken care of. It was fixed. The problem is it emptied their capital reserves, and they used their capital reserve funds for things like money for matching grants for like equipment. So if they apply for a federal grant or a state grant for equipment, it's like, you know, let's say $80,000 if the district applies to match those funds. Well, you can't budget for that because you don't know. So you have to have that money in capital reserves. So currently they're not able to apply for any matching grants because they don't have any money in their budget for that unless we somehow replenish their capital reserve. Their capital reserves also used for things like, you know, recarpeting a room or painting, the same things that we use capital reserve for, which they currently have nothing there. They have zero. So their proposal is for, let me go back. Each year, all the sending schools get the tech school gets a vocational subsidy from the state. They pass that on to the schools. Our amount last year was about $124,087. That's the amount of VOTEC subsidy we got, vocational subsidy we got back from the tech school from the state. Correct. What they're proposing is that they just keep that this year. And so for us, that would be $134,448. So they're proposing that all the schools, they just don't give us our vocational subsidy. So that would be a chunk of about $135,000 that we would lose on top of our budget. So one of the things that was discussed was, you know, maybe they only take half this year and maybe half next year, because, you know, we can't prepare to just go ahead and give $135,000 to the tech school. But another thing that I want to discuss with them at the next meeting, which is I think October 29th, somewhere in there, October 30th, is maybe they only want to do a quarter of that. Because if we are indeed revamping the tech school and all of these programs are getting revamped because of this major construction project, which has not started yet, then technically their capital projects should be less. Why replace carpeting in a program that is going to be, you know, renewed as part of these renovations? So I'm going to look at maybe to see if maybe we can all do maybe a quarter, certainly not all of it. But the only reason I'm just bringing this up to all of you is that you're aware of it and see if you have any direction for me, if any, or that you're just fully aware that these are some of the financial things that our budget is going to see as, you know, they're seeing with some of their budget issues. And another issue I have, or question, I've discussed this with Dr. Fox, is currently because we gave them all the money, all the districts gave them all the money, millions of dollars, expecting this project to start, but the project came in like millions of, like 4 million, I think, or something over what was expected. So it had to be redrawn out, it had to go out for bid again. The project has not started, although they're saying it's going to be on time. But the other question I want to ask is, where's all of our money? It's somewhere making money for the tech school, which hopefully they can use to build up their capital reserves. And I shouldn't say they, us, because we are them. So those are some other questions that I have. Just it came up at the last meeting. We'll continue to discuss it. I will be giving you more information. And Dr. Fox can certainly chime in if I have any of this wrong. I'm certainly not a master at this, and I'm new on their board. That's my understanding at this point. Any questions? And if anyone needs to dive deep into this, we could certainly do that. Any questions or comments, thoughts on any of that?
I have a question. So the subsidy, is that our money? does it ever come, let me ask this a different way. Is that built into our budget that we then funnel back to them? Or is it just a pass-through?
The money goes to the tech school. The tech school passes a certain amount on to each district. That goes into our budget.
So if, making up numbers, if we give them $500,000 a year as our contribution from Susquenita School District, and we get $50,000.
Can I give you the actual number to help you? Sorry.
Well,
The number was 474,000 last year.
Okay.
So eventually we give them back 134,000 plus. They want to keep our 134,000
Yeah,
plus.
let's not do that. Let me just put this in my head first.
Okay,
So let's
sorry.
just say it was $500,000 is our contribution, but there is I presume this is coming from the state subsidy, and we get $50,000 in state subsidy. Does that money come directly from the state to us so that in effect to our budget, it's only a $450,000 burden on our budget? Or does it go to where does it go? I guess that's my question. And so if they're going to keep it, and was that $50,000 worth of revenue we were expecting?
So there's two questions, good questions. The first question is, do we directly get that funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Education Bureau of Career and Technical Education? No, that money goes directly to Cumberland Perry Area Career Technical Center, who then sends it via a breakdown in a sheet from their business office to the school, to the sending and member districts based upon the formula. The second question is, as a school district, have we budgeted for the career and technical education pass-through subsidy? And the answer is no. We have not budgeted that as revenue in the past and have not in this budget either.
So in the past, then, was it just bonus money?
That is accurate. I wouldn't say
Like, you know what I mean?
Correct. Yes.
Money we were expecting it, but we weren't
weren't-
building our budget based on it.
It was not revenue that was generated and proposed during the budget process, to my knowledge. Now, I would have to go back through, and again, to my knowledge, because I'd have to go back through and really study, but again, without looking at that revenue sheet and taking a deep dive to see if it's captured under state, perhaps, that's where I would land. I don't believe, but again, it could be, and I'm not aware of that, right? So I'd
That
have
would
to
be-
take a deep dive.
So that's my first question. My second question is, can they just keep it? They can't just keep it. We would have to agree to them keeping it,
So
right?
correct, and I think that's what Dr. Jones is proposing, that there are options that the Joint Operating Committee is trying to talk about, trying to find different options to propose in terms of what that could look like to build back their fund balance that has been depleted because of that fuel leak that has really caught everybody off guard. So there's a lot of, I think, really high-level discussions that have not got into the full detail yet. Is that accurate?
It is. Two things. One, that money has to be accounted for somewhere in our budget. Like, we just can't get a check for $120-some thousand and not have it accounted somewhere as
Well,
income.
yeah.
So you're going to check on that.
It is accounted as income. I think the question was asked if, as a school district, we budget for that as revenue
Yeah.
when we build the budget, and I do not believe it is built as revenue, and I'd have to check and see.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely, as the revenue comes in, it is absolutely accounted for and placed appropriately as state revenue and tracked accordingly.
Right.
So without that, if our budget, if we hadn't budgeted for it, and at the end of the year, our budget comes out zero, if we hadn't got that money from them, our budget would have come out minus $124,000 or whatever in the hole.
No, I would, go ahead. I think I know the answer to that one, but we built our budget on a zero state subsidy increases, right? So if we are going to get subsidy, and well, I guess if you're not including that in, you wouldn't, every year, I think for the most part, we've gotten a little bit more money from the state. So we'd always have more revenue coming in than what we budgeted for.
We try to build a budget, yes, that is flatlined.
Right.
In terms, because our budget is due so much earlier than what the state budget is due. And really, when we look at this career and tech subsidy pass-through, It is not 100% guaranteed. It does fluctuate based on the ADM, average daily membership. And it is not really a large amount of money in per se in terms of overall generation of revenue. But it is something I can explore and look at the revenue sheet and see if, and drill down. And again, I apologize, I do not have that in front of me, nor, I think you're seeing that in the absence, well, I'll look into that information.
And so back to, unless you're going to follow up on that.
Well, I was, and I think my point was, forgetting about all of it, at the end, when everything is done, all the income comes in, all the bills are there, and we look at, this is the amount of money that went out, and this is the money that came in. The tech school money that comes in, even though we weren't counting on it, would be there.
Yeah.
And if it weren't be there, if when we put that all together and we break even, if that number wasn't being there, we would be that much in the hole. That's my point. Like we might not budget for it, but if we don't have this money, then that's $120-some thousand that we don't have.
Well, and I think also we've already built a deficit budget. So it's going to be whether we're in the hole. But either way, we're going to have a deficit budget anyway. I mean, because we're going to flatline. Dr. Fox is like, are we? I mean, yeah, I mean, it's logical that we will because we're going to go with flatlined state subsidy again. So, but let's just say it was this year, we would just be lesser in the hole if we kept the subsidy and more in the hole if we didn't, if that was the case. So going back then, what happens if we say no, we want our subsidy?
No, thank you. That was the other point. The JOC, the Joint Operating Committee, which is one board member from every school district, although I think West Shore, I think, has 2, they get to vote. So the JOC will vote. And if I was like, no, we want our subsidy, and everyone was like, no, we're taking your subsidy, then we don't get it. The JOC will make that decision, and they will vote on it at a board meeting when they decide what they're doing with their budget.
Okay.
Right now, I've been sitting on the finance committee meetings as well, trying to just learn. If overall the majority of the JOC members want this to happen, it will happen, and we don't have a say in it. But at this point, we have a say in you all telling me what I should do and me voting.
What's funny about that is that approach on this particular topic is because when they were deciding about whether they were going to have the schools send money for a build, everybody had to agree to that. That had to be a unanimous decision, right? You couldn't have had it be majority and then everybody had to buy into the build.
I think that was like their name change as well. Certain things are in legislation, and that is one. Like you can't change the name of the school. You can't raise money to build onto the school. Some of those things are codified in legislation that they must be approved by 100% of the sending district.
Okay.
I don't know enough about it. I'm sure John does, but
Yeah, there's always 2 entities. There's the Joint Operating Committee that's made up of, as you said, representatives based upon the size of the member districts. And then, of course, it goes to the full board, and the full board then votes and goes back, and that full board takes action, such as the budget that gets approved every year is a full board action, I believe, as well as new property and extending new property. Because what you did as a full board was you approved a new authority, and that new authority then is building that addition and modifications to Cumberland Perry Area and Career and Technical Center, because there can't be and there is not a standalone a standalone Career and Technical Center. It's therefore a shared authority under the member school districts, and that's all, I believe, memorialized under the Articles of Agreement.
so stay tuned on all of that. I'm still learning, but I'm going to try to do my best to bring back to you. Now, there's the part 2 to the financial piece.
Wait,
Oh,
can
go
we
ahead.
just one more thing on that? So when you were mentioning about the fact that the money that we are giving towards the construction, so that money has already been transferred to them?
That is correct. We were authorized to pay 2 payments. I believe one is coming up in November and one was made in July. And that is correct. That schedule, we were told, is that on all the documents that were signed and secured. We're still, and everything was at that point still on schedule, and we were, since we signed and agreed to it, we needed to make our payment. That payment was made, and I believe all member schools made their payments.
Is there any discussion about holding on to the second payment until they decide what they're doing? Because that does seem unfair to sending schools to send millions of dollars to them.
So I was not able to attend the first PAC meeting or the superintendent's advisory meeting. It was at a time when we had some other things unfortunately going on within the district. I believe we were closed that day. So I did not and was not able to attend that meeting. I will be at the next one, and we'll try to gather and collect more information. And at that time, they're also going through an administrative director change. And I believe their new administrative director, Mr. Wolf, should be in, and I believe should be able to provide some more oversight into what the next steps of this project are. As Dr. Jones said, it's my understanding that the project timeline is still in play, though. That this project went to what was called value engineering, where they had to redesign some aspects of it because the bids did come in higher. And then they went out to bid, and I'm not sure if those bids have came back and if those bids have been recorded. But I'll try to collect some more information, and I'm sure Dr. Jones will at the next Joint Operating Committee meeting. And there will be more that will be shared as to what that timeline looks like.
Because I do like that idea of, if they do have all that cash there, why aren't they investing it and getting some return on that that could help to restore their reserves?
And the next joint operating committee meeting, I think, is October 28th. And the interim director, that will be his last day, he will be there. And the new director, Tom Wolf, will be there officially as the new director. And he was at the last meeting, and I got to speak with him as well. So I'll ask these questions. But I want to say all these people are lovely people. Their business manager seems to totally be class act, know what's going on. So I have no complaints or anything like that or whatever. There's just some questions I wanted to bring to all of you, so we could have them. And so we'll try to have those as well. So yes, any other questions?
So I'm just curious if I understand this correct. We pay a portion to CPCTC. The state also provides a subsidy to CPCTC. So what is leading us to believe that the subsidy that they receive from the state is somehow ours? Is there regulation or guidelines? Just because over the years they have paid that back to us, is there anything that is written in regulation that says they should pay that back to us? Because in reality, if the state is paying that to them, I am led to believe that that should be their money. There's nothing, unless it's written in regulation, that precludes them that they have to pay it back to us for it to be our money. So I'm just kind of trying to figure all this out, that we're saying it's our money, but in reality, I'm not really sure that I'm following that it is our money.
Great questions. Excellent questions. And I think I think we as a school, and I think how the breakdown is, in member schools pay X amount of money in terms of the budget that we approve on a regular basis. In terms of that pass back, I don't know if that is codified or if that is in the Articles Agreement or if that is truly what the procedures are, or if that's just been something historically that has been done. So that is something certainly that will have to be looked at as well. But I do know, like anything else, it is like the budget itself, construction, it operates because all of the member schools operate it. So it would have to be something that everybody agrees to, and any of those changes is something that everybody would need to, the majority would need to agree to as well. So I think at this point, Dr. Jones is just really providing a good level of detail as to what had happened, why they're asking for potential change. And when I looked at our revenue projections for this year, very at first glance, and I apologize, not taking a deep dive, I do not see that we don't budget for that revenue coming back as a career and tech subsidy back to us. So that's a good thing. So if there would be any changes to that, it wouldn't create a negative revenue projection.
But it would be negative revenue.
That is accurate, based on historically how we received revenue, correct.
The second part of this that I wanted to bring out is that their budget is going to go up, regardless of what we just talked about, which was having to do with getting their capital reserves. The budget is going up at the tech school, which we expected, and it's going to continue to probably go up a lot every year because they're adding, new programs. By the way, I'm going to go back, pause that for a minute, and go back to the construction. I just feel like I want to say this. Yeah, like Crabtree and Rohrbaugh came up with a proposed plan for a building and said, this is how much money the tech school needed. They got that money approved by all the schools, and every single one of the bids came in like filmed $4 million off. So Crabtree and Rohrbaugh, which in my opinion should have known better, they are then, I think they charged us, $75,000 to draw up a different version of the plans so that hopefully when they put this out for bid, it will bid within what they said it would cost. And we approved that as a JOC last month. But the majority of us were not happy at all. Crabtree and Rohrbaugh, in our opinion, should have sucked that up. And we kind of had that fight with them and lost. And so now it's an additional $75,000 to Crabtree and Rohrbaugh because their specs were like $4 million plus off. And so there were other board members there that said publicly, they better not be coming to us for any other more money on anything else because, I think they think they're the only game in town. But I thought I would just share that. All right, so now their overall budget is going to go up. Reason for their overall budget is going up because their collective bargaining agreement salaries are going up, which, by the way, their collective bargaining agreement is over at the end of this year, just like ours, and they will be in the collective bargaining process. Anyway, their salaries are going up. There's an increase in their health care. Last year, we hired a diversified occupations instructor for that program. That was a new program instructor. It was paid for by a state grant that somehow went through Shippensburg University, which was only good for 1 year. So now, as part of their budget, we have to now suck up the salary for this diversified occupations person and benefits. There are also now the 2 new building programs that are supposed to come online next year are building maintenance and a pre-engineering program. So we will be budgeting for partial salaries for those 2 programs because they're going to be bringing them on early in some capacity to pay them to begin writing curriculum and establishing and growing the program and getting that on board before the kids enter the building next fall. So that's an addition. They also are using something, they're going to Quest Tech now to do a lot of their technical things. And so they're going to save some money by getting rid of 1 or 2 of their technical people, but they have to add a technician through Quest Tech and their services. They're going to have to add some new servers, and the CSIU costs are going to cost more. So these things are all going to affect the increase of their budget. This year, their program in their curriculum review, which I think is great, because Chris, I think ours is social studies as well. Their program review this year is social studies curriculum, so we're going to be looking at increased costs going over the program review of social studies, more materials. One of the things they did say was new computers for that program, perhaps laptops, and so I want to ask, if all the sending schools are now one-to-one, which I'm not sure they are, and all the students have their own devices, and they're using Google Classroom, which I understand works with a Mac as well as a PC, and if they're purchasing laptops for their students, I'm wondering if that's prudent or necessary. I'll be asking that question again. But that's some of the reason, or at the next meeting, I haven't asked it. So that's some of the reason their costs are going up. So I wanted to also talk to us a little bit about how it is determined what we pay. So what they do is a 5-year rotating or revolving enrollment. So they look at the last 5 years. So what they're doing, if they look at our last 5 years, the class that's being dropped off 5 years ago, 6 years ago, had 68. We were sending 68 kids at the tech school. The class that we are adding to that enrollment is we only have 62 students. No, excuse me, it's the other way. It was 62, now it's 68. So our enrollment has actually gone up. So the percentage that we will actually owe them is more because we have more students. However, every other district has more students also. So when you look at it, we were paying 5.8% of the overall tech school budget, but even with our increased enrollment, the amount that we're paying them is actually going down to 5.6%. So even though our enrollment has gone up, it has not gone up as much as some of the other schools. So the percent of money that we are giving them, the percent of their total budget that we pay for is 5.6%, which still, with the increase in their budget, it looks like we're looking at a $30,922 increase. So it looks like about $31,000 increase from what we paid last year, which if I got my numbers correctly when I looked at the budget, we did like $465,000 last year, and that's probably going to go up to almost exactly $500,000 this year. Plus, if they want our subsidy, an additional $124,000. That's what we're looking at now. You know, it's September. It was September when we had this meeting, so that's just where we are. But I felt it was important for me to report back to all of you where we are, see if you had any questions, direction for me, and then I'll go to the next meeting and ask the questions and report back to you.
So is their entire revenue to run the school reliant solely on the amount of money that sending schools send them? Do they have any other revenue sources?
Perkins Fund, sorry.
Yes, with the amount of money that they get from Federal Perkins, which is a Federal Perkins grant that they get every year.
But
and
no other state money?
No, I do not believe so.
So, and I think then going back to Marcy's point, that subsidy money isn't theirs if their budget is built based on the sending schools proportions, that money is just passed through them coming from the state. So that it goes through there and then separated out based on those proportions. I would imagine. If they build their budget based on just what comes from the school districts, they would have to have our approval to keep it, for them to build their capital reserve.
Well, and I didn't want to dig into this too much, but my thinking is this: the tech school has their money. They look at the number of kids from each sending district, and they decide what percentage of that money comes from each district. I'm not sure how the vocational subsidy is awarded to the local schools. Like, I don't think that's based on the student population. So is our vocational subsidy equitable with the vocational subsidy that Greenwood gets, or at Camp Hill or Mechanicsburg gets? I don't know how the state determines their vocational subsidy. And I don't think I can't imagine that's equitable. So for the tech school to take all that vocational subsidy in and then not subtract that from what the district owes and then decide what the district owes, to me would not seem fair. It seems more equal and more fair now to look at how much each district owes based on the percentage of their students without including the money that school district is getting as a subsidy for vocational subsidies, because we have no idea. I'm sure that's not a person. I don't know how they're figuring that out, but I would guarantee it's not equitable. I was probably too heady, but does that make sense, Marcy?
Yeah, to me, it doesn't make sense that they would use the CPTC schools as a pass-through when they could pay it to the districts directly. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know how they build their budget, but, you know, in looking at that, you know, it wouldn't make sense for them to pay it to the tech school, for the tech school to then pay it back to the district. Now, certainly if the district finds themselves, if there's some kind of formulary that says if they find themselves in excess of a certain amount at the end of every year, then there's an amount that gets divided back out between the districts, certainly. But to me, it just doesn't make sense that the state is going to pay the the tech schools this money to then turn around and have the tech schools pay the district, when the state could then just say, we're going to pay the schools to say this is directly to subsidize what you're paying the tech school. To me, it just doesn't make sense.
They sometimes do that same thing with cyber charter. We don't get the money. Doesn't sometimes Isn't it sometimes like that with us? We don't pay them a tuition bill. It kind of comes off the top of,
No, it's removed from the federal, from the FAI, yes, the money that we get in, it's subtracted off of that. That's a kind of a different play. I think something very similar might be the pass-through funds of Individuals with Disabilities Education
was
Act, or
thinking that was my next
IDEA,
question was gonna
Part
be.
A and Part B, how it's passed through to the IU. It could be just how it's set up through there, but it certainly, those funds follow the student, and to be used, and I believe that, so the formula certainly is a very interesting formula, and it has increased, and it's codified under 2502.8 of the Pennsylvania School Code, which is called the Secondary Career and Technical Education Subsidy. It's a very complex formula, one that I won't try to really even understand, but it's determined by the vocational average daily membership, the VDAM, by multiplying the average daily membership of students in a vocational program and career and tech center by 0.2990, multiplying the average daily membership of students in a vocational program in a school district or charter school by 0.2241, and then it goes on to determine the base earned for reimbursement using the state median actual instruction expense per weighted average daily membership, and then the equalized mills. It's a pretty interesting formula, but it is broken down, and it does differentiate based upon school districts, and that is available in an Excel format, and can be seen on the PDE's website.
is that how they decide what we give them, or that's how they decide? Or both?
Well,
I guess that's what I'm asking. What you're looking at now, is that how they decide what we are assigned to provide?
I
so
think
it's broken down by career and technical center allocations. And then under the career and technical center allocations, it's broken then down by school districts that are made up of the member schools. So really it is by career and tech center, and then broken down under the school districts that make up the career and technical center.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, are you talking about how they determine how much money we pay them, or how much money we get in the subsidy back?
That is,
Or both?
that is the subsidy. This is
How
the
we break
formula
down the
generated
subsidy.
by how the subsidy is created, correct?
My understanding is how we determine how much we pay them is we take their whole budget divided by our percentage of enrollment, and that's the amount we owe.
Is that as simple as that?
It's as simple, am I correct, Dr. Fox? It's
Yeah,
as
there might be
pretty
one
much as
more
simple as
element
that.
in there, but it's a pretty simple share calculation of the 5-year rolling average, as well as there's another element in there, and I apologize, I don't
And I could
have that
share
in
that
front of
with
me.
all of you. It gives every school district the percentage of their students that go there and what they owe based on their percentage.
Mm-hmm.
They have provided, we could provide that.
So the percentage of the students from the school that go there, the percentage of the total number of CPC-TC students?
The percentage of our students from the total enrollment at the tech school, which, as I said, ours was 5.6, now it's 5.8, but it's actually still, ours was 5.8, now it's 5.6, even though our enrollment went up, because everyone's enrollment went up.
So these are
So
really,
of all of our students, 5.6 of our students are their entire enrollment.
Okay, so
a lot of really good questions that I think there's a lot of technical details involving career and technical education that I apologize, that I think I forgot more than I remember at times when it comes to career and tech. And a lot of times it does, in fact, change since the last time I was at a career and tech center. It may behoove us to reach out, and I know they would come, and maybe our November caucus to see if the new director or business manager would want to come and do a little presentation on what their vision is, how it's made up, and maybe just some questions that they may look to answer, if that's something that there's a desire to. Or maybe we wait a little bit longer and see, and maybe we look at anything further than that. Once that person gets started, it's certainly up to.
We can do that. I just am trying to give an overview,
Yep.
because I think it's our money and we should all know exactly what's going on. But I mean, personally, it's just really hard just trying to figure out how to run our own budget, let alone running,
Right.
understand. But I mean, I would do, whatever.
So again, just to be clear, there's 1,000 students at CPCTC, and we have 100 of them. We're paying 10% of the whole budget? Is that what we're doing? Or is it based on the fact of how many percentage of our students within our district are going there?
No, you were right.
The first one. That's, okay, that's what I thought.
Real quick, just give me 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, okay, so. It looks like Big Spring is 10.5% of their budget, population. Camp Hill, 2.6%. Cumberland Valley, 11.9%. East Pennsboro, 5.3%. Greenswood, 3.3%. Mechanicsburg, 7.0%. Newport, 3.5%. Northern York, 7.2%. South Middleton, 6.0%. Susquenita, 5.6%. Upper Adams, 3.2%. West Perry, 10.6%. And West Shore, 22.6%, which is why West Shore has 2 people sitting on their board. That total, if you add that percentage total up, it comes up to 100%. And then their enrollment, if you look at their 5-year average, their total 5-year average enrollment is 1,186 students, basically. And that's our percentage of that. And that's how the budget is then figured out.
And how do they just, I know we've had this discussion before, maybe this is off topic for right now, but how do they decide how many students each school gets? Because proportionally, I mean, West Shore shouldn't have 22% of the students there based on their size compared to
Redland and
Cumberland
Cedar
Valley.
Cliff. West Shore encompasses Redland.
Right, but
and
still,
Cedar Cliff,
but
so
even
it's-
size-wise, that wouldn't be the size of Cumberland Valley, would it be?
It's close.
Is it? Yeah, but they're like, how much is Cumberland Valley's enrollment?
I don't
Oh, you
remember.
put it away.
It's 11 something.
But it's a
Yeah.
good question. It's always a good question. It's a hard question. And we always have a long waiting list, and Greenwood always has a long waiting list. I don't know how to answer that. I'm sure that was all somehow decided. But that's why we're spending the money. That's why we're willing to put in the money. Because as I started, it's quality education. We want to get our own kids in. We want to get our kids there. I don't think Jonathan Fry, the president of our board, would mind me sharing, because he has shared publicly, he fought to try to get his own son into the tech school, was not able to do that. So, I mean, it's like, there's a need. And it's not just the old, hey, it's the kids good with their hands, so they should be there, or it's not just for the kids with learning disabilities. These kids go on, they learn college credits, they go on, they get degrees, they could go on and get a bachelor's degree in a program, or come out and get a job. It's a great gig, so hopefully we can just find the money to continue to support them as best they can, and, I'll do my best as a JOC member to report back to you how that is being handled. And I don't feel in any way there's anything erroneous or malicious going on, that they're not doing the greatest possible work. So that's that. Well, I guess I'm in charge. So moving on, I guess. Number 13, Susquenita Blackhawk Foundation update. Dr. Fox.
Thanks, and any, certainly other members can join me as well. And there's a meeting coming up this Thursday at 7 o'clock, and the Blackhawk Foundation is continuing to process through, get all the final touches on the EITC application. And kudos to the committee, and especially Vice President Mrs. Callis Wexler, for all of her hard work and getting in that compilation that needs to occur and getting that in for the application to receive EITC funds. The Blackhawk Foundation is continuing to plan for its ugly sweater edition of the Jingle Bell Jog, 2.5-mile race, run, and fun run on December 8th. So there's a 2-mile walk, a half-mile kids run, and a half-mile kids run is around the track, and it's free. There's no charge for that. We've secured a few business sponsors, and our platinum sponsor was Yoder Insurance. We're looking for additional sponsors, so if there's any businesses and organizations listening and would like to contribute, we would love to have you reach out to us. And please register. It is through Vulcan Race Timing. You can register online for the event. That way you can secure your T-shirt. That's it.
Okay, excellent. Moving right on, number 14, the meeting schedule. You can see that our next policy committee meeting is November caucus meeting is following that on November 5th, and our next regular scheduled board meeting is November 12th. Informational items are there. You can see them, board members. Administrative reports. Dr. Fox.
Thank you very much. This month is a special month as we celebrate and honor National Principals Month. So a special thank you to Mr. Funk, Mr. Page, Mrs. Walsman, Mr. Ward, Mr. Jason Black, and our newest interim substitute member, Mr. Stanley Roche, as we celebrate you, and we're appreciative of all that you do on a day-to-day basis. We know that principals are mentors, they're instructional leaders, and really they're the chief operating officers of their respective schools and respected members of our administrative cabinet as we look to you with innovative and creative ideas. Your daily work is instrumental as you inspire students and staff, and we thank you for your outstanding leadership as you continue to help us soar. So thank you for all you do. Let's give our principals an outstanding round of applause for all that they do. We'll be sending out soon to the entire district community just kind of an update on some important dates as we approach our Columbus Day coming up and the school closure that day, as it'll be a professional learning day. I believe there's also a 2-hour early dismissal for professional learning and collaboration coming up as well. So we'll send that information all out as well. And I also want to share that we will not be making up the September 9th, 2024 closure that occurred. We have enough hours with the flexibility that's there to meet our 900 and 990 requirement. So that day will not need to be made up, and we'll be sending that information out also. We're also going to then take those days that are on the calendar, those 3 that are preserved as makeup days for the first, and they'll be used first in the order in which they're in there on the calendar for weather makeup days. After those 3 days have been exhausted, then we will transition into our flexible instruction days. As our athletes enter into postseason play, we want to wish them all the best as they enter the playoffs, and outstanding coming up here for District 3. It's hard to believe. It's awesome. It's rolling right around the corner as our athletes get ready for District 3. And before you know it, we'll be talking winter sports and gearing up for the start of our winter sports season. So thank you and congratulations to our athletes, to our coaches, and to all of our parents and guardians and fans that come out to support them. Thank you.
Any other board reports? Okay. Administrative reports, that is. Do we have any board reports? Unfortunately, I have. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. One quick comment was I saw that Mr. Funk put in his Blackhawk squawk, which I personally as a parent enjoy that he does that and we get that out. But he put in there this week I believe the bell schedules or instructions for the flexible instruction days when we have inflexible instruction days, which I think is great to have. But just in case anyone read that and got excited, I wanted to point out to anyone or everyone, the way our calendar reads this year is we will use our 3 built-in snow days first before we use a flexible instruction day. So if you saw that and you're thinking they're getting ready for flexible instruction days, they will only happen after our first 3 snow days are used, and don't know what kind of winter we're going to have. The next thing I want to talk about, I'm not talking about it as acting board president, I'm just talking about it as Mike Jones, board member, who's been on this board for 13 years, representing this community, representing Wheatfield Township. But I take great pride, as does the rest of this board, in our budgeting and the amount of time and the amount of work we put into budgeting. And it was disconcerting to me that I had to vote to increase taxes, not the full amount, but we voted to increase taxes this year. So the second time since I've been on the board in 13 years. I mean, we work really diligently to try to do the best we can with finances. So that's why I wanted to ask Dr. Fox, do you remember, sorry if you don't know, I didn't prep you for this, when Chester Holmes, our previous business manager, resigned? What month? Do you remember? Does anyone remember that? Sorry. May? So Chester Holmes, amazing, I think, did a great job for us as a business manager, did a great job. He resigned in May. And so we approved his resignation. We immediately began to advertise for a new business director. And that takes money. It takes money to advertise, it takes money to put that out there, it takes money to screen applicants, it takes staff to screen applicants, get a whole group of people together to interview and hire a candidate. And we did interview, and we hired a Mrs. I think, Stevie Jo Boone from West Shore School District. And we hired her at more money and more benefits that we had anticipated because of her services and because the need, and because it's something we feel is really important. Now, that all started in May. We hired her. Her and her husband came to this board meeting. We welcomed her on board. She was sent the contract and all the paperwork. She accepted the position. She negotiated the salary. All was well. In the meantime, we have had to hire an interim financial director, assistant superintendent for finances, whatever, business manager. We hired an interim person who came in, which we had to pay for. Our superintendent's working night and day. Our people in our business office could not be applauded more because they have been working night and day and teaching themselves and learning and working without a business director, all very hopeful that we would have Mrs. Stevie Jo Boone from West Shore School District, who currently works there as her business manager, that she would be coming on board as she agreed to do. We get a phone call today saying that she has decided West Shore School District's going to offer her a lot more money and a lot more benefits, so she's not going to come to us anymore. And we have to put that on our agenda next month, probably to put down that we are rescinding the offer. Or I guess we have to accept her resignation. And I would encourage all of our board members to accept that, even though she changes her mind, because this is Perry County. And in Perry County, when we give our word, our yes means yes and our no means no. And if she wants to come back to this school district, she's not welcome here. She would not fit. And this could go on and this could happen and nobody would know the difference, but I think people need to know these things go on. It's costing us, it's costing our taxpayers money. Now we have to advertise again, and we have to pay all the money to advertise again. We have to go out to people, we have to interview all of our people that have been working tirelessly, overboard, doing all this extra work, thinking this person who gave her word was coming here, up and decides to change her mind because maybe she could work with. This person is Stevie Jo Boone from West Shore School District, who is going to continue to work there and manage their money with the same character in which she apparently managed her professionalism with us. But if we end up raising taxes again, and sadly, folks, I think we're probably going to have to, some of that money is because of unethical, maybe not unethical, but what I would call unprofessional behavior like that. And we deal with this stuff as a board a lot, and we take care of it a lot. And probably if I waited till next month, I would not be so angry, but I am angry, and I think it bears sharing with the community. I represent Perry County. And Perry County, we don't act that way. We're not going to operate that way. So I just wanted to share that, because those are some of the things we deal with as board members, and we try to have your back, community. And when it comes to finances, these are the kind of things that we can't always control, but we're dealing with, and we're dealing with it in as respectful and professional manner as we can. And if you know anyone who would like to be our business manager, please have them contact the office, because we are now seeking a business manager again. And we're going to try to take a little bit of load off of the people that are just doing double and triple duty. Do we have any other board members that have a board report?
I'd like to just follow up just for a little bit of clarification. My understanding is while she is employed by the West Shore School District, according to our minutes when we had approved her employment, she's a resident of Newport, which meant that she was coming back home to Perry County, which was one of the reasons why I think we were excited about her coming. And maybe even more so why it's upsetting that this was the path that it took.
So she lives in Newport, wanted to come back to the community?
Wanted to come back to Perry County, as I understand it. That was part of the reason why she decided or was even looking to come back to this area.
Well, I think I speak for this board and for our community. That's not the way people from Perry County, at least not the people from Perry County that I know and love, conduct business. Anyone else have any board comments? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.